On November 11th, 2025, 20-year-old welder Amber M. Czech was found dead at her workstation at Advanced Process Technologies in Cokato, Minnesota. It was a moment that shocked coworkers, devastated a community, and ignited national conversations about workplace safety, gender-based violence, and the challenges faced by women entering traditionally male-dominated trades. This is the extended story of who Amber was, what unfolded on that tragic morning, and how her death continues to echo far beyond the walls of the facility where she worked. Amber Marie Czech was born and raised in Hutchinson, Minnesota. Those who knew her describe a bright, driven young woman, someone who wasn't afraid to work hard and get her hands dirty. She took pride in the trades. Welding wasn't just a job to her. It was a skill she was proud to have earned, a door to independence, and a path toward a future she was actively building for herself. Teachers and classmates remembered her as the kind of person who put her whole heart into what she did. Family members spoke of her energy, her compassion, and her desire to do meaningful work. When she joined
Right now we are just trying to bless Amber and remember Amber in every part of her life that has touched people and touched everybody in this community.
Advanced Process Technologies, often called APT by employees, Amber stepped into an industrial environment full of machinery, metalwork, and long shifts. It was the kind of place where hardworking people built equipment used in food and dairy production. For Amber, it was a step forward, a chance to grow her skills and advance in her chosen field. But on the morning of November 11th, her promising future was violently taken from her. According to publicly reported details, Amber began her day like any other. Employees arrived in the early dawn hours, filing into the facility while the cold Minnesota morning settled outside. The air inside filled with the familiar sounds of machines powering up, metal tools clinking, and workers preparing for a full shift. But sometime that morning, surveillance footage, later described in law enforcement documents, captured movements that would soon form the backbone of the case. 40-year-old coworker David Delong was seen leaving his workstation. Reports state that he picked up a heavy sledgehammer and walked directly toward Amber's area. What happened next has been reported by multiple news outlets. Delong allegedly approached Amber and struck her multiple times with the hammer. The attack was sudden and brutal. Coworkers would later find Amber on the ground, gravely injured. Emergency responders were immediately called, but despite their efforts, she was pronounced dead at the scene. Her life ended before she had the chance to call for help, defend herself, or understand what was happening. The shock inside the facility was immediate. Workers were devastated, stunned, and terrified. The idea that a coworker, someone they worked beside every day, could commit such violence shook employees to their core. Many were left with questions and fears that would take months to process. Investigators quickly secured the area, reviewed the surveillance footage, and began interviewing employees. What they uncovered added another layer of horror to the tragedy. According to information summarized from charging documents and news coverage, at least one witness told authorities that DeLong later admitted he had used the hammer. Another report stated that he told someone she was gone and that he had not liked her. Prosecutors also stated that DeLong acknowledged planning the attack, suggesting a level of premeditation that made the killing even more chilling. Within days, DeLong was arrested and charged with second-degree intentional murder. Prosecutors noted that the investigation was ongoing and that additional or upgraded charges could follow as more evidence was reviewed. The legal process continues to move forward, and the public watches closely, hoping for answers, accountability, and justice. But while the legal system worked to process what had happened, the impact of Amber's death spread far beyond the courthouse. Her family faced the unimaginable, planning a funeral for a daughter whose life had barely begun. Online memorials and obituary statements painted a fuller picture of who Amber was.
We are just trying to give Amber the send-off to heaven the best way we can and come together as a church community and as Hutchinson to remember Amber and who Amber was.
They described a young woman who loved her family deeply, who found joy in hands-on work, and who had dreams of advancing in her field. Friends remembered her as someone caring, determined, and proud of the career she was building. Communities across Minnesota came together with vigils, donations, and heartfelt messages honoring her memory. But Amber's story struck a deeper chord across the country, particularly among women in the trades. Organizations representing welders, construction workers, machinists, pipe fitters, and other skilled tradeswomen began speaking out.
The thing is, she represents an entirety of our population, and it has hit a chord. And our heart breaks for her family, for her friends, for all those who were touched by what happened to her. This was nothing that such a young woman deserved ever, ever, ever.
They highlighted that Amber's death was not just a tragic incident, but part of a broader pattern of women facing unique safety challenges on industrial job sites. Statements poured in from unions and advocacy groups calling for systemic change, stronger safety procedures, better surveillance oversight, improved reporting systems for threats or hostile behavior, and cultural training aimed at preventing gender-based harassment and violence. Amber became a symbol, not just of a life taken too soon, but of the urgent need to protect workers, especially women who often face isolation or hostility in male-dominated environments. Her case was covered nationally, prompting conversations in training programs, workplaces, and industry conferences. Back in Cokato, the APT facility temporarily shut down operations as employees reeled from the tragedy. The company issued statements offering support and cooperating with investigators. But the emotional scar on those who worked beside Amber was deep. Many questioned whether warning signs had been missed, whether more could have been done, or whether the tragedy could have been prevented. These questions, difficult and painful, continue to linger. As the case moves through the legal system, there are still many unanswered questions. What motivated such a brutal act? Were there earlier conflicts or reported issues? Why was Amber targeted? While some of these answers may eventually surface in court, others may remain part of a tragic mystery. What remains clear, however, is that Amber's story has become bigger than the events of that one morning. It has become a rallying cry for safer workplaces, better policies, and stronger protections for vulnerable workers. Her name is now invoked in discussions about training programs, union policies, and legislation aimed at preventing violence in industrial settings. You're watching Behind the Crime Tape, where we follow the evidence to find the truth behind the headlines. If you value careful, fact-based storytelling, take a moment to like, comment, and share. Help more viewers see how the smallest recordings can reveal the biggest crimes. This story is not just about an isolated crime. It is about the systems that failed to protect a young woman with her whole life ahead of her. It is about the coworkers whose sense of safety was shattered. It is about the family left to navigate grief that no parent, sibling, or loved one should ever experience. And it is about the national movement that formed, demanding not just justice for Amber, but justice for all workers who deserve to return home safely at the end of every shift. Amber Czech was 20 years old. She was a daughter, a welder, a friend, and a young woman determined to carve her own path. She should have lived to see her career grow, to build her dreams, to experience the full life she was working so hard to create. Her death was senseless. Her loss is immeasurable, but her story continues to inspire change. As the legal case proceeds, as communities honor her memory, and as the trades reflect on how to protect their workers, one truth remains. Amber's life mattered. Her story matters. And remembering her is the first step toward ensuring that no one else suffers the same fate. This is the extended story of Amber M. Czech, a story of a promising life cut short, a community forever changed, and a nation forced to confront the urgent need for safety, accountability, and compassion in the workplace that keep our world running.